Over the past 7 years, there's been more agreement about the importance of learning beyond the space and time in the classroom. But a new survey for the After School Alliance shows when it comes to summer learning, 15,000 students in Boston were left behind. To tell us what the study says about Boston and what should be done for learning recovery from the pandemic is the executive director of Boston After School and Beyond, Chris Smith. Thank you very much for being with us again, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be with you today.
Chris, I led with the bad news here about the students left behind, but if you look at the students in Boston who are not left behind, at least for summer learning, it doesn't look that bad.
Well, the After School Alliance, which is a national group, is surveying every state in the country and oversampling some cities to see just what's happening in terms of participation in summer learning. And we're proud that 10 years of persistence has paid off because Boston outpaces both the state and the country in families reporting that at least one child is in summer learning. In Boston, that's 60%. So it's far outpacing the nation. And as you know, Chris, the city, including the school district, but hundreds of community-based organizations have come together to make sure that they provide enriching and in many cases academically supportive summer learning opportunities. And it's getting bigger and bigger every year. It's grown every year. And importantly, this group has come together to measure the same attributes of summer learning. And because they've done that in such a disciplined way over so many years, we can say with confidence that it works in terms of math and English language arts, but also social emotional skills like perseverance, teamwork, communication. It's been studied. Boston was part of a national study with RAND, and that shows definitively that kids who participate at a high rate realize the benefits of that kind of summer learning. And it's important to know when you look in the survey, it gets underneath just participation rates. It looks at how satisfied are parents with programs, and it asks them what they desire in a program. And you can see that there's overwhelmingly high satisfaction with these programs, 89%. And that shouldn't be surprising to us because summer learning exists in the voluntary space. So families and young people are signing up based on interest and relationships. And what you see in these programs, once kids are enrolled, you get this great combination of concentration and motivation. They're learning something, they're concentrating, but they're doing so in a really supportive environment that's helping move them along. So it's fertile ground for all sorts of skill development and for helping young people develop positive relationships, but it's a way to sneak in stealth learning. So a lot of these programs are actually building academic skills. And if the survey shows that parents want, overwhelmingly 94% want opportunities to build life skills like the ones I just mentioned, also critical thinking, a growth mindset, these attitudes that with effort, you can make your way in the world, but also physical activity and opportunity to experience the outdoors. And you'll find just about every program in our network provides some access to physical activity, but 25 are intensively focused on that with a huge variety of activities, all the way from sailing in the Boston Harbor to hiking in the Blue Hills, to boxing, basketball, and even MMA.
I know part of what goes on in these programs is somewhat similar to classroom learning, but a lot of it is quite different. So how is it that the chemistry of summer learning somehow helps students advance academically, which is, back in the world of the classroom?
Yeah, it's tempting to think of summer learning as more a school year. But it's really a paradigm shift. Instead of starting with a reward for attending classes or school, we're flipping it and we're saying, how do we attract young people to something that they want to go to every day? And then let's back in the academics. And what you see are programs that focus on that first, and they get kids to the program. I know it sounds simple, but the research that was done across the country and here in Boston shows that the key driver of results is attendance. So we pay attention to the 80% threshold. Do you attend 80% of the scheduled hours? And it's no surprise that the programs that have the highest attendance also have the highest program quality scores. So they're the most enriching, they have the best structure and organization, and the best staff relationships. So when you pay attention to those processes to running a really enriching, engaging program where young people walk in feeling known and welcomed, and they know what they're going to do next, you get them coming back on a regular basis, and that will yield results over time.
I know students in Boston probably encounter students from other neighborhoods when they go to their regular high school or middle school, but if you look at this program, does this somehow make it more likely that they're going to meet people from other backgrounds and maybe grow because of that?
Yeah, and nearly all of these programs, and most of the ones we work with, prioritize students in the Boston Public Schools, but you see that these divisions between school type, charter, parochial, Boston Public School, private school, they melt because kids have a shared interest. It might be tennis at Sportsman's Tennis Club on Blue Hill Avenue. It could be a basketball program in the heart of the city that draws kids from different kinds of schools. Or it could even be Thompson Island, where kids are coming from several schools and neighborhoods and spending the summer on Thompson Island together. It is a great unifier, and I think that's probably one of the untold stories of summer learning, is that these divisions melt. Kids, their teachers, youth development staff come together around shared interest, and there's a lot of power in that.
I want to ask you about the enrollment gap, because even though 60% of the kids in Boston are in these programs, there does seem to be an income gap in enrollment. How serious a problem do you think that is?
Well, some of it is perception of cost or accessibility. Some of it's real. Our goal with the Boston Public Schools is to have a high quality summer learning program for all students. So we want to put that to the test. I'd love to hear from people who want access to a program and can't get one. We want to knock down every single barrier so that every young person is engaged. The Boston Public Schools has converted much of its old summer school funding into this more enriching summer learning. Private funders have contributed, and the programs themselves involved are committed to closing any sorts of gaps in access, especially based on income. So if there's a need out there, we hope to be able to meet it at some point. The other point is just knowing where the programs are. Families get information in a variety of ways. There's no single best way. But I think Boston could be the first city where connecting every young person who wants it to a summer learning program, that goal is actually in reach if we keep our foot on the gas and keep focused on this. It won't happen on its own. It does take deliberate effort.
I know explain what these programs normally do, but we're still not really in a normal time. We're coming out of the pandemic. What does that mean about strategy for this summer?
Yeah, all along these programs have been, they stepped up when schools were closed. Last summer, we had about 50 programs that really led us in providing some of the first in-person activity in all of society. So we took advantage of the good weather, the outdoors, playgrounds and parks to get kids going. Our network's been following the guidance, the regulations as they moved over the past 15 months. At this point, we are ready to go. We've been conducting trainings on running safe in-person activities. We've been absorbing all the latest guidance on distancing and health. And we're excited to come back strong this summer, whereas last summer, many programs were remote. Nearly all of them are in person this year.
Chris, finally, if people would like some more information, at least at what you're doing at your organization, what's the best way to keep track of that?
Best way is to go to our website, www.bostonbeyond.org. And there's a headline on summer 2021 there, where you can find information on hundreds of programs who are working with us this year.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it.
There is Chris Smith from Boston After School and Beyond. We'll have more news in just a moment.